Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be going over Carson Wentz, the Carson Wentz trade to the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to be breaking that down, but more importantly, we're going to be looking at some Carson Wentz film and determining what he brings to the Colts offense. Before we get started, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow. I would really appreciate that. And with that said, let's dive right into the video, and I hope you enjoy. So, like in all these videos, I start with his stats, and 2020 was an ugly year for Carson Wentz in so many ways. So in 12 games, right, he started 12 games, he threw for 2,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions, and he got sacked 50 times, which is the most in the NFL. Also, remember, he got sacked 50 times in 12 games. Right, he only played 12 games, not 16. So this guy was getting absolutely eaten alive, and that was because the Eagles' offensive line, which had been one of the better offensive lines in the NFL over the past few seasons, lost Brandon Brooks. Right, Peters at left tackle wasn't he got injured. Kelsey was the only guy who was like consistently there for the entire season, but they were consistently starting backups and third stringers the entire season. So Wentz was getting hit a lot, and then we'll talk about how he does under pressure in today's video. But the number one thing I look at Wentz about is his game, right? I mean, he's got a solid arm. He likes to play hero ball, and those are issues, right? You don't want to see quarterbacks take risks. But we're going to dive all into that right here, right now. So let's dive right into the film analysis. So the first play we're going to look at is his deep ball ability, and that's the number one thing I show about quarterbacks. First thing I want to show you here is in this situation here, he's actually got some pretty good time in the pocket. So what he's going to want to do is he's got this receiver just going long, pretty much, and he's just going to hit that receiver. But I want to first show you the time in the pocket he has, right? So he's got a nice little pocket here. And when he has a clean pocket and he's able to, wind up and throw the ball accurately downfield, that is where he succeeds the most. In Indianapolis, they have one of the better offensive lines in the league, although they don't have Anthony Costanzo at left tackle anymore. He retired. They've still got Quenton Nelson. They've still got Ryan Kelly, Mark Lewinsky, as well as Braden Smith, who make up one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. If they go out and get a left tackle in free agency or this offseason, then this offensive line is going to be set, and this is really going to help Carson Wentz grow. So now Wentz, he's got that time in the pocket, and once he's got that time in the pocket, he can unleash an absolute cannon deep downfield, and he just hits this guy in stride. That's a perfect pass to the outside, right? The receiver's done a good job beating his man, but this is just a perfectly placed ball right onto that outside shoulder, and then he decides to cut it back inside and then gets tackled. But once again, really good throw. And that's the thing with Carson Wentz. When he's from a clean pocket, he's got a really good arm and he can really push that ball downfield. Something that's really good to see from Wentz. That's something that he was doing well during his MVP type season. And it's something that he is continuing to do well, even in bad seasons where, pressure was getting to him. But nonetheless, with a clean pocket, he's able to take his time and he's able to push that ball downfield really accurately. Another play I want to show you is another deep ball play, and this is another situation where when he gets the ball out quickly and when he doesn't really have pressure in his face, and the offensive line's done a good job, as you can see, that's the pocket here, right? He's got a little bit of space, got a little bit of time to fire it. Then he can use that touch pass and just get it over the shoulder. And this is, once again, perfectly thrown ball. That ball to the outside shoulder, right? He's putting in a place where the corner can't get to it. The wide receiver is going to run under it, and it's simply just a touchdown catch. This is just perfect, right? It's a perfect ball placement. It's a perfect use of that touch pass and that deep touch pass. And I mean, Wentz, he had the lowest completion percentage of his career last year with 57.4% completion percentage. But when he was, not being pressured in these situations, he was a lot more accurate. So in Indianapolis, that's going to be a huge part of their game, keeping Wentz clean, not getting pressure to him, not allowing for pressure to get to him, so he can throw that ball deep downfield with accuracy, with touch. And when he's doing that, he can look really, really good throwing the football, and that's what he did in Philadelphia when there wasn't pressure in his face. So that's the number one key important thing. Make sure there's no pressure in his face for the Indianapolis Colts. If you keep a clean pocket, you're probably going to be good for Carson Wentz. Now, Wentz doesn't have a cannon of an arm, but I think when he's on his game, he's slightly above average when it comes to arm talent and just his ability to power a football into a place. So in this situation here, right, Wentz is dropping back, and once again, the number one thing you want to see is you want to see his quick instincts and his awareness. But more importantly, what he's able to do when there isn't really pressure right in his face. And in this situation, he's able to simply just muscle a ball into a place and then touchdown. And that's the thing with Carson Wentz. He's pretty solid in these situations where he's able to drop back a few steps, has the time in the pocket, right? He doesn't really have any pressure in his face. There's not really any pressure right up to him. And then he's got his options. He can either go here, he could go here, but he sees the zone coverage and he sees the thing in the zone defense. And then he's able, because as you see, this guy's going to drop back here and then this guy's going to play here. So he knows that this receiver's going to be open right there. And he simply finds the receiver by throwing that ball, and then that's a touchdown. Really good job here by Carson Wentz, just realizing what the defense is giving him. And more importantly, just using the time and space and, the lack of pressure in his face to really be able to power and muscle football in there. That's what he does best. Another really important part of his game is his ability to rush outside the pocket and make moves. So the number one thing that Carson Wentz is known for is obviously his arm and his ability to throw the football, but also his ability to run is something that is really good. Obviously, there's more and more mobile quarterbacks in today's NFL, and therefore the ability to run and move outside the pocket is incredibly important. So in this situation, this is actually a quarterback run option design, and basically what Carson Wentz is looking at is he's looking at this guy right here. And if he sees that this guy bites down, right, then Carson Wentz is going to be able to take that and then go outside. Because if this guy goes down, this space opens up. So basically, if he moves down here, right, then all of this is going to be open because no one's covering it. So really, he's faking off this handoff and then going around. So that's what Carson Wentz is going to be able to do. And that's the number one thing with Carson Wentz. You see, he gets him to bite, and now Wentz is gone. Right? Wentz has that, the speed and the athleticism and that mobility to just get inside and get outside the pocket and get for a touchdown. And that's the number one thing I love about Carson Wentz. His athleticism is up there among the NFL's best quarterbacks. In a way, he's like a really, really, really worse version of Patrick Mahomes. And I'll explain that in a second. And that's because of his great mobility, his ability to throw on the run. It's also his ability, to just throw the ball deeper downfield. But at the end of the day, it's the more mistakes. I mean, Carson Wentz makes a lot more mistakes than Patrick Mahomes. That's why he's a really toned down version of him. But he's got a lot of the same types of attributes. He doesn't really have the arm angle stuff, and he doesn't really have, that insane throw power, but nonetheless, he's a toned-down version in the sense that he's super athletic and he's super mobile and he's able to get outside the pocket, make plays with his legs, throw the ball deeper downfield, and he's just so athletic, and that's his number one ability. Wentz's best ability is his athleticism, and he really utilizes it here outside the pocket using his mobility. And I'll show you another play where he utilizes his mobility too to just escape pressure. So I referenced it earlier, but Carson Wentz likes to play hero ball, and this is a situation where he's playing hero ball, and it works out. And we'll get to the situations where he plays hero ball and it doesn't work out. Basically, this is what we saw a lot of from the Philadelphia Eagles last year. A lot of pressure coming off the edge, allowing that pressure. And as that pocket collapses, this pocket is collapsing here, right? Wentz realizes he needs to get out. So the one thing he is good is he is quite elusive at times. So he steps up in the pocket, realizes that he can get outside of the pocket, and that's exactly what he does. And he has that speed and that mobility to get outside the pocket and use that athleticism. And as he just continues to run out, then he's able to dive for the pylon, score a touchdown. Really good job here by Carson Wentz, just using his physical traits and his mobility and athleticism to get outside the pocket. But once again, the plays that he makes like this allows him to have the confidence to make other plays that end up not going so well. So although this is a good thing to see from Carson Wentz, he needs to almost limit these, because in this situation, right, he should probably, there's not really anyone open. Maybe he's open here, but he'd have to fire that football. But yeah, he makes the right read, stepping up and getting outside the pocket. This is a good job. But at the end of the day, right, I think that these kinds of plays where he has success makes him go to other plays with similar situations where he ends up failing and, making terrible mistakes. So we'll get to those too. But this is just Carson Wentz, a little bit what he can do, his athleticism and mobility, escaping pressure. And this is a good job here by Wentz in this situation. Now though, let's go to another play where Wentz is going for the hero ball. So this is a situation where I don't actually mind the play because, it's 30-14, fourth quarter, right? It's 4th and 9, 4 minutes left. Like, this game is almost over, and you just need a deep threat. But the thing is, Wentz does this in regular game situations too. But let's just see what happens here. So basically, this is what we saw from the Philadelphia Eagles a lot last year. We saw a lot of pressure getting to Wentz, right? A lot of pressure. There were so many guys. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys rushing the quarterback. There's another guy here. And the pressure is getting to him. The pressure is almost here. So what Wentz does here is he just keeps tracking back, and then look, 1, 2, 3, 4 guys unblocked, right? This offensive lineman's nowhere near here. All these offensive linemen are behind the play, and Wentz simply has to go off one leg and throw it all the way to the end zone here. I mean, just look at this play. This is terrible. You do not want this to be your 4th and 9. You must have it play. Except it works. The receiver ends up mossing 2 guys, and it's a touchdown. But then when Wentz, go out and makes these plays, and makes these plays that are heroic, which he can do, and he has proven throughout his career that he can make these kinds of plays, playing that type of hero ball, right? At the end of the day, yeah, it succeeds, it works, but then he has that confidence to go out and try and make these plays in regular game situations, and it doesn't work, and we'll get to those. But this is just Wentz and what he's able to do when the play breaks down. It is up there among the NFL's best, but it's also a lot lower than the NFL's best because he's very high sometimes and then he's sometimes very low. He's not consistent when it comes to making these smart plays when the play breaks down. It's either all or nothing when it comes to Carson Wentz, and that can be very scary for a playoff contender like the Indianapolis Colts. So yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but nonetheless, once again, Good play here by Carson Wentz, but it's a little bit scary if he's doing this 2, 3, 4 times a game. Now, though, let's go to some Carson Wentz mistakes. And this is going to be miscommunication here. So, really, this receiver, it's actually a tight end here. I think it's Dallas Goedert. He's going to run that route. But Wentz just miscommunicates here, and he just throws the ball not where it needs to be. So, as you can see, Wentz is looking over here. He thinks that, if this tight end can just leak out over there, then he can probably find him over the top there. But nonetheless, right, as he moves back in, right, Wentz realizes that he's moving this way, but he's already set his mind that he wants to go that way. So also another thing I want to show you here as he throws the football, right, he thinks almost that it's going to be like a double move to the outside here as he's throwing this football. So as this football is thrown, right, to the outside there, Goedert is moving to the left, and that means that he's just missed his receiver. So that's a really important thing. But also, you can look at this this front foot here, and it's not pointed towards the receiver. As you can see here, this is pure miscommunication, because if he was trying to throw it here to the left side of this receiver, this foot would not be pointing over there, but it would rather be pointing much more over here. So by showing that the foot is going over here, we know that Wentz wants to throw it to the outside, so it shows that it's just miscommunication between him and his tight end and slash receiver. In this case, it's Goedert, so it is a tight end. But nonetheless, he's got to have better communication with his players, and this ends up being an easy interception for, I don't know who that is back there, but nonetheless, this just it's Quandre Diggs. That's who it is. But Wentz just needs to have better communication, and it starts with that. Number one thing starts with communication, but it also starts with limiting these just terrible passes, and this is just one of those too. Now, though, let's go to situations where Wentz wants to play hero ball. So in this situation, this is actually a terrible play call. Number one, this is a play-action play, so you're going to want to watch these linebackers here and see if they move, right? Chances are they don't actually move. You know why? Because this is the worst play-action play I've ever seen in my life. Running back goes this way, Wentz goes that way. None of the linebackers think the ball's being handed off, so, what's the point here? And the real issue with this play is that there's only two receivers going, 1 and 2, and then it's pretty much max protect. As you can see, all these guys are pretty much in protection here, and the Cowboys simply drop back a ton of guys. So there's really nowhere to go with this football. You might be able to slot it in here, maybe slot it in here. You'd really have to power that football in, which Wentz really doesn't have. But he really, as the play progresses, there are no options. And as the pressure comes in his face, he's only got one option, right? And that option is to get outside the pocket, right? And in this situation, you want to pretty much get outside the pocket and just get as many yards as you can and pretty much just slide. But Wentz just goes back, right? You see, there's a receiver here and a receiver here. And Wentz thinks that he can still throw the football, right? He's trying to throw this football, and then he simply just gets sacked. So he's trying to play hero ball here, and he needs to make up his decision. He needs to make up his mind. It's either, you know what, I think he's actually trying to go to this tight end over here. But he needs to make up his mind in the situation. He needs to either get outside the pocket or throw the ball away. There's no options here, and taking a massive sack and a massive hit is exactly what you don't want to do. So this play is just another situation where we see Carson Wentz thinking he can play the hero, trying to play hero ball, and then just realizing that, he can't play hero ball in this situation, and then getting sacked for a big loss. This is not ideal when it comes to Carson Wentz. You don't want to see this from Carson Wentz. And these are the kind of mistakes that really cost the Eagles last season and are going to cost the Colts next year if Wentz can't clean them up. He's got to play a much safer game, and this is just one of those plays where, you got to get rid of the football, or you just got to just move up in the pocket and just take 2-3 yards and not try and go for the big play. And to be fair, the Eagles were in quite a bit of games last year. They weren't out of a ton of games. They were in it for most of games. Obviously, there were some games where they really struggled, but nonetheless, just look at the situation here. 21-16, third quarter, 8 minutes left. It's 1st and 10. You do not need to power a football to the end zone here. But nonetheless, Wentz wants his receiver over here. He wants this receiver here. He's going to run that route there to the end zone. And as the defense, as this is the one thing I do like. There's no one on Wentz. So really, Wentz is trying to power this football into a tight window. And simply, look, there's a guy here, there's a guy here. It's into double coverage. You don't really need, this massive play here. And it's just simply picked off. There's not enough power on it. There's not enough zip and zang on that football, when he could have easily just gone over here to this guy over here as this guy continues going out, and then he drops back. But he could have moved up in the pocket. There are 10 other things that he could have done rather than try and zip this ball into a tiny window. And even then, I mean, this receiver probably wouldn't have made the catch because this receiver is about to get absolutely destroyed by the safety. As you can see, he gets absolutely destroyed. So this is just a terrible throw here by Wentz, terrible decision making. And if there's nowhere to go with the football, then just get outside the pocket. You've got the mobility to run and use your legs, and that's something I really want to see Wentz utilize in Indianapolis. He didn't. Obviously, Indianapolis had Phillip Rivers last year, so that wasn't really an option. But if you're able to use Carson Wentz's legs, then he's going to be a lot more successful. And him throwing the ball sometimes can work, but in this situation, like, this is just a bad read, bad throw, know the game situation. You've got to be alert in these situations if you want to win football games. And finally, again, this is him trying to play hero ball once again. So in this situation, right, the pressure comes, and this is more of the problem that I see a lot from Carson Wentz tape. As the pressure came, he struggled. So although Wentz does see a way to get outside the pocket, which is good, and that's exactly what he does, he then tries to become Patrick Mahomes and, play with the arm angles and just find his running back in Miles Sanders right here, but that's just a terrible throw. And that's the thing. Carson Wentz, he doesn't have that arm angle game. He doesn't have the Matthew Stafford type arm angle game. He doesn't have the Josh Allen type arm angle game. He definitely doesn't have the Patrick Mahomes arm talent game, but he's trying to play the hero here. He's trying to go for something that he's not able to do, and that burns him. Right, and sure, it's 37-19, and it's the fourth quarter, and you gotta make something happen if you want to have even a chance. But this is just not the play, right? It's just not the play, and he doesn't have that ability. So he needs to know his limitations. That's a really important part of Carson Wentz's game. He really needs to know his limitations if the Colts want to be successful next season. So with that said, I mean, let's start with the good with Carson Wentz. What are the things he does well? He throws the ball really well deep downfield. He's really good, or he's better, when he doesn't have pressure in his face. And those are the two really big things of his game. Also, he's really good at being mobile and athletic outside the pocket. So those are things that you want to focus on for Carson Wentz. So if you're the Indianapolis Colts, you build an offense around Carson Wentz's strong suits. You don't build an offense around his weaknesses. Okay, so number one thing is obviously you got to start with the wide receiving core and the tight ends there in Indianapolis. Okay, so I don't think they have better options and better weapons than in Philadelphia, but nonetheless, Carson Wentz has worked before with below par weapons. Obviously, he's had issues at wide receiver throughout his entire career in Philadelphia, and I mean, the Colts are a team that definitely is going to invest heavily in another wide receiver. They've got Michael Pittman, they've got Zach Pascal. T.Y. Hilton, I think, is a free agent, so I don't know what he ends up doing, but they've got Jack Doyle, Alie Cox, and Trey Burton at the tight end position. I don't know if Trey Burton might be another free agent too, I'm not really sure, but nonetheless, I mean, they need to add some weapons to this offense if Carson Wentz has got to be successful. But up front, they got to add a left tackle. They got to protect Carson Wentz. That's the number one thing. If he's protected, if he's not getting hit, if he's not getting hurt, they've got a better chance for him to be successful. And most importantly, the protection up front is so crucial because when the pressure comes and the play breaks down, the offensive line fails. That's where we see Carson Wentz trying to play hero ball. And when he tries to play hero ball, 50-50 chances, things can go wrong, and things do go wrong. And that's something you don't want to see from Carson Wentz. So if you're the Indianapolis Colts, Carson Wentz is bringing a lot to your offense. I think this guy could end up, bouncing back next season and being a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. And you paid a second rounder and a third rounder for an experienced quarterback who's played at an MVP type level before in his career. Obviously, that was a few years ago. But nonetheless, I mean, Wentz is a beast. Sure, he's got a big contract. I still love the trade for the Colts because he's got that athleticism that you don't really see in every quarterback in the NFL. Nonetheless, he's got the special athleticism. He's got solid arm talent. I don't think he's got elite arm talent, but he's got top 15 to top 17 arm talent in the NFL. And then when he's, clean prep pocket and he's able to use the run game and find his tight ends and receivers out of a clean pocket, he really succeeds. Also, use his mobility. That's something that the Colts didn't have last year with Phillip Rivers. He's not a mobile quarterback, but Carson Wentz is a mobile quarterback, definitely up there among the top 10 mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. I'd probably put him in that conversation. So use his legs, use his mobility, use his athleticism outside the pocket, and then build your offense around that. You've got a great defense in Indianapolis, and that's really going to help support that Colts offense, but rely on the running game, rely on Jonathan Taylor to really set the tone, but then use Carson Wentz's ability to work from a clean pocket to succeed moving forward. So if you're the Indianapolis Colts, I think that they did a good job with this Carson Wentz trade, but you've got to give him some options and some weapons around him to really see if he can bounce back to playing like he was a few years ago. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, see ya.